Hello and welcome to the next square of the 50 stitches crochet along, and this week we're making the basket stitch. So it's called the basket weave because it looks woven just like a basket. So it's a lovely texture stitch. It's double-sided, so it's actually the opposite on each side, and it's a really nice stitch for baby blankets and baskets. And it's made up of front post and back post double crochet. So the thing to remember about front post and back post double crochet is that they are the same stitch but opposite. So if you make a front post double crochet on the opposite side, it will look like a back post. So it just depends on which side of your work you're working on as to which effect you get, and the basket weave takes full advantage of that. So essentially we're just making the same stitch, just it depends on which side of the post of the double crochet we're making on as to what it looks like. So it's made up in sets of 2, so each of these sections is 2 rows and each block is 4 double crochet across. And that's an important thing to remember, to keep track of which set of stitches you need to make. So if that doesn't make sense, hopefully it will do in a minute. So I do have a close-up tutorial with much chunkier yarn for front post and back post if you need it, which I will link into the video description below. So we're going to start off with a chain of 32. You need a 4mm hook, and for your first row you're just going to double crochet all the way across. So remember that turning chain counts as a stitch, and you're going to double crochet in the 4th chain from your hook and then just make double crochet all the way down. So you'll have 30 stitches in total. I'll just zoom in. So I'm just about to finish that first row. So remember, foundation chain of 32, then double crochet in the 4th chain from your hook, turning chain counts as a stitch, and you'll have 30 stitches total by the end. Okay, so because we're going to be working in the posts, our stitch height is actually going to be short. So we're just going to chain 1 and single crochet into our first stitch. And I'm just going to mark that with a stitch marker. So there will be 7 sets of stitches across each row, and I'm going to start with the set of 4 of front post double crochet. So hopefully you're familiar with this by now, after the Alpine and Waffle stitches. I'm just going to use that stitch again and just make 4 of them. Three more yarn, and 4. There we go. And now we're going to make a set of 4 back post double crochet. So for this, you're inserting your hook behind, oops, like that. You're going to go through the other side of the post, so essentially you have to fold your work in half, yarn over and pull through, and then make your double crochet. So it's exactly the same as a front post, but you're just making it behind. So if I turn it over, it looks like a front post. So that's what I mean about the opposite. So the back post is just an opposite of the front post. If you turn it over, it's got the exact same effect. And the back of the front post, that's what a back post looks like. And we're going to do 4 back posts. It does make it easier if you fold your work over. It can be a bit fiddly, especially when you're starting, because you're your row just kind of wants to scrunch up a bit because of the different ways you're making stitches. Nope, I've made a front post. I didn't want to do that. What's going on? Up here, you. See, even if you've been crocheting for years, you make mistakes. Right, let's try that again. So we've got our first back post. We need 3 more. 2. 3. 4. So when you're making your back post, try and bring your yarn up so it's on top of the stitch from row 1. Right, so there we go. You see it's making that ridge in the front. Okay, so we're going to do 7 sets across, 7 sets of 4 across the row. And we're going to start and end with a single crochet. So now we've done that set of 4, we go back to a set of 4 front post, and all we're going to do is just alternate between front post and back post all the way across the row. So you'll always have 30 stitches on each row. And 1, 2, 3, 4. And now back to the back post. I found the back post just a bit more fiddly. You can't see what you're doing as easily. But once you yarn over at the back, try and bring your yarn to the top of the post, and that'll make a nice clean stitch. So you're essentially pulling up a loop to loop over. 1, 2, 3, 1 more. And go back to front post. This second row is always the trickiest because it can be easy to lose track of which stitches have already worked round, but it gets much easier with the rows afterwards. 2, 3 and 4, and back to back post. Oops, I didn't yarn over. There we go. Up there. Sometimes yarn does not want to cooperate. Okay. 1, 2, 3. And 4. And one last set of front post. So this stitch is always done in multiples of 4 plus 2 extra stitches for your start and end. And last front post. And then in the top of the turning chain we're going to make a single crochet. That's the gap. Just take you out. And single crochet at the end. Excuse me a second. The other strand of yarn wants to do a disappearing act. It's in there. There we go. Right, and then I'm going to turn, chain 1, and single crochet into the top of that single crochet. There we go. of the last row. And marker back in. Right, so I'll just turn it back round. So there's our first row, and you can already see the weaving effect starting to take effect. So that's your first ridge going across, and you can see the bands going up. So that's our first section. So we want it to look the same on the opposite side. So we ended with front post double crochet. If you turn it over, it looks like back post. So to keep that same effect, we need to start with back post, but it's going to make it look the same as front post on the other side, which can get a little confusing, but if you keep track of that, it'll be a lot easier to keep track of which stitches you need to do next. But to create the same look, when you turn, you do the opposite of the row below. When you turn, if you want it to look opposite, you do the same stitches as the row below. So as you can see, I've got more back posts there, the second ridge is forming. Turn over, that is lovely weaving bit is carrying on up, so it looks like front post. So the way this stitch works, we do 2 sets, we need 2 rows every, bring this back in, it's easier to explain. So for each of these sections we have 2 rows. To make it look the same, you do the opposite of what you did in the first time. So if you ended with front post, you'll start with back post. When we change, we do the same as the row before. So if you finished with front post, you will do front post again. And this is how this stitch works. So row 1 down here is your double crochet. Row 2, we start with front post and go on to back post. For row 3, you start with back post and then go to front post, and it makes the same effect on the other side. Row 4, we do the same as row 2. No, same as row 3. So even though I'm getting confused, I'm going to write this in the description because it's easier to keep track by looking at it than it is by trying to figure out the instructions, as strange as that sounds. And you just keep an eye on how you want it to change. But I'm going to write it out as to which row you need which stitch for, because it does get confusing because it's the same stitch but opposite all the time. It's very easy to get confused. But you can see the effect straight away when it starts, so you can always tell very easily if you've started making the wrong stitch. But just remember, each of these blocks is 2 rows. We're going to be making 16 rows in total, so we're going to end on a half of one of these blocks. For the border, you need to go down to a 3.5mm hook, and because otherwise it gets wavy like this. I've done this with the same size hook as the square, and it's not very happy. It's wavy, it doesn't like it. So you need to go down to a 3.5mm hook for the single crochet border. So in your first and last row, you do 1 single crochet in the sides. Every other row is 2 single crochet. Across the top and bottom is just 1 single crochet in each stitch, and remember those corner stitches. So 1 extra for each corner as you turn. And then that is the basket weave. So it's best to do this one by eye, but I will put the stitches in the rows in the description of the video, but it is much easier to do it by eye than it is to follow the instructions because it can be quite confusing. So start with a row double crochet, then 2 rows for each of these blocks. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 2, 4, no, I can't count. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. Then we've got one last row up here and your first row double crochet. So I'm going to go away and learn to count. But that is your Basketweave stitch. As always, if you have any questions, please come over to the Facebook group. I've put the link in the description. I'd love to see your finished squares. And as always, if you do have any questions, please come and ask. There is a question thread in the group, and I will always do my best to get back to answer you. And everyone in the group is really helpful, so I have no doubt you will always get the help you'll need in the group. So that's it for this week, and I will see you again for the next square. Bye for now.